We're gonna give you the perfect powerlifting program and why you should lift heavy weights first, and we're gonna start right now. Okay, so the biggest factor, okay, is that we've got to establish a good warm-up right off the bat, and we are using the powerlifting program inside of our strength training app, Peak Strength. You're gonna be able to follow along the entire workout, and this is going to include a nice, good warm-up. And one big thing that I want to bring up is that when I deadlifted 705, a lot of what I did during that time frame was based around everything that I have inside of Peak Strength right now. And you should try to have better balance. Okay, so what we want to do is like 2 sets of 15 meters on a PVC pipe. Okay, that's the first aspect. The next thing that I want to get into is some type of thoracic extensions. Okay, so we can use the PVC pipe, get here, oh my God, here, let's say like 15 to 17 passes. And this is actually gonna help with the next part of the warm-up, okay? And I should be doing this just every single day to actually open up that upper back. Now, the next thing, I'm gonna go into single leg RDLs to a hip lock, okay? This is absolutely fantastic. Don't discount this. Get up right now and try this immediately, because it's a freaking perfect warm-up to find that stability and to find that trunk control here as we get overhead. Now remember, everything that we're doing to prep and to warm up for a powerlifting workout. And the big factor here is that we want to make sure that we're feeling good, that our nervous system is starting to wake up, okay? And we're gonna be applying a large amount of force. One of the big errors that I typically see in powerlifting programs is that you guys are doing too many freaking exercises in one workout to get stupid strong, especially if you're more advanced or more elite, okay? So if you're here, you're trying to figure out, okay, what is something that I can do to get better? What is something that I can do to improve my strength over a long period of time? And this workout is going to help you, one, feel better and hit better grooves. And when you hit better grooves, you're gonna lift more weight. And then you're gonna feel as though that energy that you're putting into the gym is finally paying off. That's the big factor here. Now, I'm gonna do some iso holds, okay? Let's just say it's 30 seconds, boom, pause. Iso holds, and this is gonna help me wake up this hip, wake up my quad, iso hold, boom, boom, okay? Do this, ooh, this feels nice. Boom, boom. Okay, now I'm hitting this, and the next thing I gotta do is grab this bar, and this is gonna be gross because I don't have shoes on. Oh, first. I'm supposed to be doing dowel overhead squats as part of my warm-up from Peak Strength, prescribed by the greatest strength training app on the planet. But first, I want to get into, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. This is going to be an overhead squat. Oh. Okay. Now, oh, mid-back. My mid-back is like spasming. I'm going to rest a little bit. I'm going to do another set of these overhead squats. And then we're gonna start that first exercise. One of the biggest factors that I learned building up, and this is something that we use to get a couple of our athletes here to pull close to 800 pounds, is that we like to set up our powerlifting workouts pretty similar to the way that we set up our workouts for our shot putters, workouts for our weightlifters. We want to lift heavy weight first, okay? That's the big factor around waking up your body and around getting greater recruitment. But another thing here that you're gonna see is we actually wanna use a movement where we can push the load, and it won't be this crazy, crazy taxing exercise, but it's gonna be a movement that we've gotta be dialed in on. And what that does is it potentiates for the main exercise, okay? And when we're looking at powerlifting, that could be a deadlift, that could be a big squat, a big bench press, the big three. So the whole setup for today's workout is to dial in that main exercise, okay? So we wanna do a lot of sets, we wanna do heavier load, okay? And we wanna dial in the groove And that's gonna happen based off of the way that we're setting up this entire workout. So I'm gonna do one more set of overhead squats, and I do believe that powerlifters should do this warm up specifically, PVC pipe, the RDL to the hip lock, the thoracic extensions, the overhead squats, and then the lunge isos into the jumps. Let's see if I can do this a little bit better. I am slightly concerned. Okay. I'm a little bit warmed up. Now we're gonna get into that first exercise and get rolling with the actual workout. First exercise I'm gonna do is gonna be a back squat, but I'm gonna do this in a pause position. And I wanna point out a couple big factors because I think a lot of you guys struggle with this, especially younger guys. I think that this is a little bit of a secret here in training. This is something that we have a kid here, Kyle, Swole Kyle, we call him, and he's pulled over I think it was like 730. He did his first meet, he back squatted, it was like 740. Bench press, it was in training, he's bench pressed 210 kilos. So we've used these concepts with him. He's a younger kid, and one factor here that I think that we see is that a lot of you guys will be in training just doing low bar, like wide stance squats all of the time. And I think that's fine as you're getting closer to a meet. But one thing that you can do that we really like to do is that we might get set in a traditional deadlift stance, okay? So let's say that we typically would pull with a more narrow conventional stance, right? One thing we like to do is on that deadlift day, warm up and wake yourself up with some high bar full range of motion pause squats, okay? So we would get here and think about having full range of motion and keeping that chest up. And I would even say that we've got to be focused on, if I'm going to be pulling, let's say in socks or in flats like I have on right now, I'm going to squat in the same exact attire, okay? I'm going to do the high bar back squat in the same attire. So typically I would tell someone who's a weightlifter to wear weightlifting shoes. I would even tell, let's say, a shot putter to put on weightlifting shoes. Sometimes when I'm lifting, if I have flats on, I'll put a plate under my heel. But if I'm about to do a heavier pull, okay, what I'll do is I'll actually squat in the same shoes or barefoot because I'm gonna pull in the same manner. And I wanna set up my squat where I'm finding the groove, I'm finding mobility, I'm keeping that posture as upright as possible. And we wanna do, based off of peak strength, okay, we're gonna do a triple here, we're gonna do another triple, and then we're gonna do a double. And it's just 3 sets, but it's really gonna get everything moving well. Lower back, quads, your posterior chain is gonna be firing, and we wanna feel those good positions so that when we go to pull, we feel like we're absolute savages. And I think that that's something that a lot of you guys discount, is that you can actually use a high bar movement to really set everything up. And we'll even, as we get close, we'll start to peak with big, heavy front squats that might be a pause or a double bounce. And we might do 3 or 4 sets, and then we can lead into a heavy pull. So I think that's something that I wanted to bring up for powerlifting. And I think that that's even another aspect, is that inside peak strength, the way we set it up is we can have a 4-day or a 5-day program, okay? So you can go over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store, you can download Peak Strength, and when you get into it, you can select powerlifting. You wanna train specifically for strength, if that's your goal, or for powerlifting. And what you wanna do is tell Peak Strength, how many days a week do you wanna train? And we will set it up in a traditional sense where we have our speed days and we have our heavy days. And then we're gonna have an impulse day or an athlete day, okay? If we're doing 5 days a week. The big factor that I wanna bring attention to is that some of our best deadlifters ever are guys that have been weightlifters, okay? Jake Horse was somebody who walked around at 67 to 70 kilos and could deadlift over 230K. He could clean 400 pounds, that's 180K. So we're looking at somebody who the heavy dynamic movements of a clean pull or of a clean are gonna pay off.
if you're inside the powerlifting program, we don't necessarily have you do cleans, but we will have you do clean pulls on that dynamic day because you're learning how to transfer that as well as possible. And I think that's like a little sneak, that's a little like code or a little hack that you can use to get a lot better, because we're so traditional in the realm of powerlifting that it has to be this one specific way. We've got to squat low bar, we've got to pull in this specific manner. We can't change our periodization at all. We can't challenge periodization unless it's conjugate. Conjugate's great, but you can do other things that actually will help you get better with powerlifting. So that's my little soapbox. Oh. One more. Okay. Now, I got one more set here, one more double. I'm gonna put on 140. And again, this is what's warming me up for the deadlifts. Another big factor, you guys are doing too many exercises in your workouts specifically for powerlifting. Let your groove get moving with a lot of sets, okay? I don't wanna do 10 exercises for 3 sets. I wanna do 3 to 5 exercises for like 6 to 7 sets. Okay, that's gonna help really increase that strength quite a bit. So I'm gonna put some more weight on. We got one more set of the pause back squat, and then we're gonna get into the next exercise. Watch me get crushed by this. All right, last set here, then we're gonna get into the next exercise. But what I wanna do is I wanna think about the deadlift, okay, when I'm doing this. I wanna think about a heavy pull. Okay, so if you're an athlete who's getting into powerlifting, or you wanna try to increase your squat, you wanna increase your strength, you wanna increase that ability to innervate so that you can rip heavy freaking weight off the ground, we want to think through the movement pattern and how it can apply to the big 3. And really that's what this is gonna be doing. It will help your squat 100%, but it's also gonna help with that pull. Okay, so when I'm getting in position, and I'm gonna try and pause at the bottom here, and I wanna think about coming out of the bottom as though I'm pulling that initial position right off the floor of a dead. So I'll get here, it's got a double. Okay, so that's the last double on squats. I didn't go crazy heavy. We built up to a decent double, okay? That's like 80, well, right now it's probably like 95% for me. But long term, that's not that heavy of a squat, okay? Now we're gonna get into the deads, okay? We're gonna warm up, we're gonna go through that warm up. I want you guys to be doing this whole workout with me. So make sure you did that warm up for the general aspect, did the pause squats, now we're gonna get into deads. So that last set felt easy. I wanna bump this up to like 180, so we'll put on 405, 182, okay? So I'm gonna update that. I'm gonna do the set, and I wanna just show you before I do the set, so I'm gonna say it's not that hard, right? So I'm gonna go here, log the set. The coolest part here, I got 2.5 minutes rest, okay? So we can go through that 2.5 minutes of rest. That's genuinely, if you're around 2.5 to 4 minutes, you don't need more than that, okay? You will feel fine at 2.5 to 4 minutes. As you get really heavy, go more towards the 4 minutes, but follow the rest periods, okay? And then this, as you log the set, will help you determine what's the next weight. Okay, so you can even skip this. Let's say I'm feeling good after 1.5 minutes, and I wanna go, you know what, I wanna go up even more. So let's go to like 440 or 455. Okay, so I go there, and then I can update this. So that's another freaking cool aspect, is I can log that set, I can communicate to how it is. So I log that set, and then I get here, 470, and then I can click skip or not. But I wanna keep that actual rest period going. Sets of 5, 470, set of 5. I don't know if I want to do that, but let's get rolling now. Okay, now I'm gonna hit warm-ups. I got 2 sets of 5 on my warm-ups. The first set was at 245, second set's at 285. This is in pounds, not kilos. I think my best 5-repper has been like, I wanna say like 280. Pretty sure I did 280, like 640, 630 for a set of 5. I think it's my best, but I'm not even close to that shape. Let's just go to 140. Okay, another big point here I wanted to bring up with programming is that we are technically in the comprehension phase of our powerlifting program. So the focus is a little bit higher volume. So we're doing triples on the front end, and on the back end, we're pushing the load, and I'll probably end up pushing too heavy because I'm just gonna be a meathead and then get to a point where I push the weight too much and then I say, well, wait, this next set's gonna be really hard, I don't wanna do this. But typically that's what ends up happening when I'm following the program. Anyway, going back to this, we're pushing triples on the front end. The priority is the back end sets a 5 higher volume. Now, something I want to talk about. I do like deadlifting with straps, okay? So I think it's important to figure out or to realize, like for me, I'm just training for fun. I want to do this for fun. I like deadlifting. It helps me feel strong and good about myself, and that I'm not a terrible person. So I like to use straps. I think you, even as a power lifter, you should be using straps. And then when you get closer to comp, let's say 8 to 12 weeks, you can start going over under. We had DK Hoagland, who pulled over 700 with a double over hook grip. I think that's also great if you can deal with the stress on your thumb. Let's go here. Boom. So that's a good strong triple. When I'm hitting these, I wanna think like good speed, good speed, good speed. And I know I'm not in my socks. I'm thinking like just drive through that full foot. I got pretty flat shoes on right now. So I typically would recommend, if we're pulling, to pull in your socks. You know, if you're at home, bare feet's fine. Now, another thing I'm gonna bring up is the touch and go. I know my priority is the back end sets of 5. What I think you should do is you should establish prior to the actual like session of pulls on the deads. Okay, so we use the back squats. The pauses set us up for this. I want to establish ahead of time, am I touching and going? So tap, go, or am I going to reset on every single rep? I don't think it's as crazy complex as people make it out to be if you read like the powerlifting forums, where guys will just like terrorize somebody for touch and going, which is just insane to me because it's like, dude, shut up. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm gonna hit this. I'll show you where I'm gonna reset each time. When I get up to my sets of 5, I probably will touch and go because I'm lazy. You know, touch and go is slightly easier because you can get that little bit of a bounce and a little bit more of a stretch reflex, but it's still really hard because you've gotta sit through. On the touch and go, you've gotta be a little bit more athletic because there's more speed. So right off the floor, if you're not as coordinated as an individual, you tend to get pulled forward. So sometimes we'll do touch and goes with athletes where we'll be on a deficit and we'll do touch and goes because that helps improve their liftoff. And I know that sounds wild, but I think that's the big key point here is there's a lot of big factors I think that we still haven't really touched on in the powerlifting world that we can learn from other sporting realms. I was even just thinking about Ryan McDonald, who's jerked 200 kilos, 440 pounds. This is a kid who weighs 80 kilos. He's pulled over 230 from a clean pull. And this is a kid who can clean 400 pounds. So here for triple. Okay, get to the next set. I'll do one more resetting, then we'll probably go to my touch and goes. So I hit 160, that's like 365 for triple, felt pretty good. I'm gonna go up to 405 for this triple here. Okay, and if I go through at 405, so that's where it's like doing a screen record, so I probably wouldn't show the camera. Yeah. So I'm gonna hit that 405, and then we'll see what it tells me to do after I smash this 405. I'm probably gonna wanna go pretty heavy after I hit 405. Heavy for me right now is probably like 465, 470. So I'm gonna put on 405. We're gonna go 405, see how that feels, and then we're gonna move from that point. Okay, so I'm gonna hit this. This is just shy of 405. I'm gonna hit this for a resetting triple. So each time I'm just gonna reset. Let's go here. second rep, I was a little forward. I wanted to pull that in. And that's another big factor is that in the weightlifting realm, when you pull from the floor, you want to think knees come back, but we want to have our back arched quite a bit more. Powerlifting, and my rounded upper back is perfect for this. We want to be a little bit more over and a slight round in that upper back. And we want the knees to come back. We want everything to come into the knee and then sit. So the technique is slightly different. I'm gonna put on my next set's 455. So this would get me 200. I'll put a little red on. I'm gonna put on that red. Another big factor too is like I talked about this, use straps. And we're selling straps. You can go to garagestrength.com. You can pick up straps from us. You can also just go get straps anywhere else. Our straps are versatile for powerlifting. They're versatile for bodybuilding if you're doing high rep rows. They're versatile for weightlifting. Ryan snatched 140 kilos from a hang with the freaking straps that we use, so I think they're good enough for you. And I think that they're good enough quality that's gonna help you with your pulls. So I'm gonna hit a triple, and then we start our sets of 5. So sets of 5, I'm gonna hit the touch and goes. Now, I would just, because of that last set on the second rep being a little forward, I really wanna think through driving through my heel a little more, or mid-foot a little bit more, okay? So if I can think drive back to mid-foot, chest comes up with a slight round. I wanna think through the technique and like almost having a triangle established between my armpit through the lats into my hip. That's gonna help me stay a little bit tighter. And I do like to pull conventional. I know when Natasha Aki was here, I played around with the sumo. I do have really long legs, so I didn't like sumo. I've always pulled conventional. I think the heaviest I pulled sumo was 600, and then I don't know if you know this, as I mentioned earlier, I deadlifted 705 pounds. I think my best deadlift prior to that was like, I think I hit 300 to 305 like 5 or 6 times before I finally hit that, what is it, 317? So let's hit this for a triple, okay? And then we got the drop set of 5 after this, and that's where I'm starting to already have panic mode set in. And based off of some videos I've watched recently, reacting to a Joe Rogan video, apparently when you have anxiety in training, it's actually bad for training and you shouldn't let that happen, according to the dude he had on his podcast. That just struck me as a personal attack against me because I often will have anxiety and I delay things when I'm starting to go heavy. Okay, so that's 455. Let's communicate the peak strength, because remember, we gotta be getting in that powerlifting program inside of peak strength. Okay, I gotta do a set of 5 now at 420. Oh, set of 5, I'm doing touch and go. So I gotta go down to 190 kilos. I'll communicate that to peak strength. We'll see what it says. Let's put on 190. I think the other big factor too is some of the like classic, maybe this is like my issue with powerlifting, is like everybody's so like dead set that like specific coaches were ahead of their time. And I feel like when you challenge it, everybody just gets pissed. Actually, talking with Dave Tate, Dave was saying to me when we did our podcast together recently, he's like, dude, one thing I wish I did more of is single leg stuff. And I had actually looked ahead in today's program, and that's one of the accessories that we have after this. So it's funny because talking to one of the biggest names in powerlifting, and he's saying like, there's a lot of stuff I wish I would have done. And I think that's my issue with powerlifting is it's like, if you challenge it and you put out a new thought of like, hey, do clean pulls instead of band work, like you might find that you transfer that really, do pause front squats, pause back squats. Dan Mattis is another great example. He's pulled 700 pounds He's only ever deadlifted twice in his entire life, but he's clean 200 kilos. So like there's clearly a transfer of training. So why not try and use that thought? But it ends up being this attack. But then at the same time, the whole realm is full throttled out, like just to the gills on blasting drugs. And it's like, dude, we've got guys that are in the pool getting drug tested dozens of times by USADA every single year, hitting pretty good freaking weights without doing the movements. And even their full range of motion ass to grass high bar back squats are really heavy, 300 plus kilos, not even being a powerlifter, just training that. And we're not using steroids, and we're not using the classic traditional techniques or classic traditional methods of periodization. But because you challenge some of their conventional wisdom, it's like, instead of thinking through, hey, maybe this could be a little bit better, it turns into like this pissing contest of you're stupid and I know more than you and who is this guy. Meanwhile, we're training athletes not throttled up who are extraordinarily strong. I think that's the part that pisses me off. Okay, so I'm gonna hit this for 5, but it's gonna be touch and go. So I really wanna think as I lower past the knee, staying as tight as possible. And that's where I wanna really feel what my lats are doing as well. Okay, we'll say that's an RIR 3. Is that how you say that? Reps in reserve, 3 reps in reserve. Actually, well, I'm like, okay, shit. I gotta do 180 for 7. I have to hit this 180 for 7. That's gonna be my last set of 6. So remember, we use the pause back squats to build up heavy into the pulls. We're in a high volume phase right now, so the triples early on were to set the stage for these sets of 7, for the sets of 5. So we're finishing that up, and then we're getting into the accessories after this. I'm sort of cheating and looking ahead at the accessories right now. But we got this set of 7. I'm gonna smack the set of 7. Then we're gonna go hit the final accessories. One of them is a classic powerlifting accessory. One of them is not as classic. Actually, it's related back to what I was talking about earlier with Dave and what he went over. And so, meaning one of his big regrets. Not big, like it's not like something he wakes up in the middle of the night like, how dare I not do single leg work for my powerlifting career? But something that he did say that he thinks he could have done a bit more of. So I'm gonna keep trying to delay my set of 7. This is 180. My back feels pretty good. I feel like crap right now. I got like a little bit of a head cold, but the one thing I've noticed is like, if I give myself a couple days, like let's say 1 or 2 days when I'm sick, and then I actually go in and lift a little bit, it's usually like the next day or 2, I will start to feel quite a bit better. So hopefully it works in this case. So set of 7, I'm going touch and go because I'm lazy. One thing I think you can do too in this case is what I like to do is I'll time myself and I'll say, okay, how fast can I pull, 405, how fast can I pull 7 reps? So I'll film it, I'll set the timer on the actual video. And let's say if I shoot for, I was gonna say sub 20 seconds. I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but let's say sub 20. That seems pretty quick. But the timer can't start until I have liftoff. I was even gonna say there, when you do that and you have a little urgency, you'll keep it tighter to the shin. You'll naturally have the groove set up. Holy crap. So let me clean this up a little. We're gonna finish out the workout. The all-time powerlifting accessory, reverse hyper. Then we'll show you that second accessory. Now remember, keep the exercises to a minimum. We don't need to do 300 different movements. We can hit just 4 to 5 different exercises and really build over time. So we're gonna go start with reverse hyper, then we'll get to the second accessory. Okay, so I'm gonna hit this 17 reps We're going here, and one thing I will say with the accessories is like 60 to 90 seconds rest. That's it. Back and forth, back and forth. I'm gonna hit this, reverse hypers, and then I'm gonna show you the next exercise, which I think is freaking phenomenal. We're gonna come back and forth. We're gonna finish this out, and I even wanna talk one thing about peak strength relative to me and me being lazy in training. Because I think when you're thinking through culture, a lot of coaches I don't even know how many that is. I think a lot of coaches miss out with culture and the aspect of reciprocity and even just having consistency in training. And one thing I want to bring up, when I use peak strength in one of these video shoots, like I just hit that 4:05 for 7 time. I think that's what it was. Usually when I deadlift, I'm doing doubles. I'll just go up to what I want to do. I hit that for a double and then I'm done. And I think that one thing I want to bring up is that oftentimes in training, we just do what we want to do or what we're good at, right? Which is why most of you guys don't do this, because you might not be that good at it. But something like peak strength is really phenomenal, because what you end up doing is stuff that you just might not be that good at. And the reason why we're having you do it is we want you to be able to push yourself to get on top of the podium, to get to be the best version of yourself, to figure out and to feel what it means to hit that big deadlift. It's not just hitting the deadlift. It's not just the number. It's the feeling, it's the time into the gym. It's all of the effort in training paying off. It's that long-term journey that really is what everything's about. And I think that's one of the benefits of using something like peak strength, is that you do things you're not used to doing, and you're doing them in a strategic manner, which helps you become the best version of yourself. So I'm gonna finish this up. If you guys want another video on powerlifting, click on this video right here, because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace. Or hit heavy reverse hypers. Oh.